I would love for you to tell me your life story from your earliest memory to present moment.
Okay. 13 Elmwood Road, SE24 is my earliest childhood memory. That is the house that I grew up in South London, born in King's Hospital, Brixton. And my earliest memories, I think, are just going between my house and my neighbor's house. They lived across the road from us, and they had children at exactly the same time as my parents. So my mum and Berdakan, Ethiopian lady across the road, basically became best friends when they had my older brother. Mum had older brother, Leah, was born at the same time. And then my whole childhood, I remember just being either in my house or in their house. They had three girls, obviously, myself and my older brother, born 2.5 years before me. And that place in my mind is perfect. Like, we had a park, we had a quiet street with a cul-de-sac, so it wasn't busy. We were out on the street all day, like riding bikes, and I I spent like most of my childhood until the age of 8, give or take a couple of months, in the UK. So that was living in London, and then every summer would be either in the West Country, where people talk like this, like Hagrid, or in the Lake District, where my mom is from, which is probably my favorite place in the world. Just gorgeous. It's like, slate roofs and cottages and rolling hills, and that's where I'd spend my summers. And I had an older brother, and when you have an older brother, I feel like you get to experience freedom at a younger age, because when he's old enough to be sent out into the world, to go out all day, you get up, have breakfast, then you leave, and then the curfew was when the sun comes down. And in the UK, when in summer the sun goes down in the north at like 10 o'clock at night. So like all day we're just out. And because he was old enough to do that, they would send me along with him. So even from like a super young age, just like adventuring, roaming around. So I had a pretty dope childhood. Um, the weird thing about the UK is all you remember is the summer, because winter is just dark and grim and miserable. So most of my childhood memories are like being in the countryside or on the street, roaming around. And then we moved to Australia. Now, I actually spent when I was like when I was like 6 months old to maybe 1.5, about a year in Australia, traveling around. My parents took a gap year, and they came over here. My dad did some work at the University of Canberra for a little bit, but they drove around the whole country. So they had that in their mind. They fell in love with the country in that period. Obviously, I don't remember it. I was too young. But when I was a little older, my dad got offered a job with the guy who had brought him out the first time around. They basically jumped at the chance, because where we were in London at the time, South London, was not the safest area. There's a lot of knife crime. I mean, there still is, but between Peckham and Brixton and that kind of like South London belt, it wasn't the safest place for kids to grow up. And my parents, I think, kind of fell in love with this idea of Australia. And like the interesting thing about the UK is that if you're not middle class or like upper class, like everyone knows, because your accent dictates where you came from, what school you went to. And my parents are both, working class people from the country. So they always, I think, had a bit of like this idea of Australia being a place where none of that mattered. You kind of get a fresh start and no one cares. So they took the chance. We moved to Australia. The plan was 5 years, and then after like the teething period of you're the ginger British kid that moves into the Australian school and like people make fun of you for your accent and stuff like that. Um, you like it's a very welcoming place. It's a pretty warm place, as in like the people are warm. I felt like it took me like 6 months, and then I felt like I was having the best time. Um, and after 5 years of like school, so we would have been, I don't know, that was year 2 when we arrived. So then that would have been like just starting high school. Um, my, I don't actually remember this, but my parents say my brother and we like sat them down and we like called an intervention and we were like, we're not leaving. Like, if you guys want to go back to England, that's okay. We'll go and live in an orphanage. But like, I ain't fucking leaving. um, and it maybe wasn't the full 5 years. This would have been like 4 years or something when they were talking about moving back. So they were like, okay, I guess we're kind of stuck here. And they were kind of on the fence about going home too. Obviously, like their parents and stuff were still in the UK, so they wanted to go see them more. But so we decided to stay. And so high school, I don't know how much detail we go into. High school was pretty great. Um, I always feel for people who had a really rough time in high school. I think it's quite easy to fall into the like maybe you didn't quite fit in, or kids are pretty brutal, and I think if you start on the wrong foot in school, it can be like almost impossible to get to the other side of that. But I was quite lucky. I think by nature of I went to a school where being a musician wasn't uncool. Like being like one of the main things about the school was the IMP, the instrumental music program, and it was like not uncool to go to band camp. So I think I was lucky in that sense. Like I played clarinet and saxophone and in the jazz bands and the orchestra and stuff like that, but like that wasn't anything to be bullied about. And I was a skater, and for some reason, skater kids were like cool in high school. So again, like had a good time of it. Like I enjoyed high school. I had good friends. Like, and of my high school memories are like having fun, playing football, and playing music. Like we started a band. I remember I would think I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I asked for a guitar for probably my birthday. And up until that point, as I said, I played clarinet, I played saxophone, and I'd had a couple of piano lessons, but it wasn't really for me. Well, my dad was a really good guitar player. He was a jazz and blues guitarist, and even back in London, especially back in London, I remember Dad going to work. My parents worked all the time. Like I didn't see them in the morning pretty much, and then they would come back at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But my dad would also be gigging, as he was like a gigging, so he would play almost every week in like jazz and like clubs around London, and so I was always encouraged to be musical by him especially. I have a very fond memory of like him, us like marching around the table when I was a kid, and he was playing the chords to La Bamba, like ba ba la la bamba. And I just thought it was like the funniest and like coolest thing that I had a dad that could play music. And there was a piano in the front room, and I must have been about 5 or 6 years old, and I sat down at the piano, and I don't know why. I don't even know if I knew that you could, like, no one had told me to write songs. Dad had never written songs. He wasn't a songwriter. That wasn't something that I was like told to do or encouraged to do. Like I was encouraged to play music, but I sat down and I wrote a song called "The Little Crocodile," and it's a very simple song, but um, I I think of that moment and I'm like, why did I choose to do that? Like why was that something that came naturally to me? And that I see is like my first, like, you know, the kind of door opened on that pathway for me. So yeah, that was still in the UK. And then when I was in Australia in high school, I asked for a guitar, and as soon as I had like figured out the basic chords, all I wanted to do was write songs. And so it meant that I never became a very good instrumentalist, because I spent all my time writing songs. And there was one of my best friends, Travis, was in a band with some other friends in high school, called Crazy Horse Invincible. And Travis was like cooler than me, better looking than me. He'll love that. And he played the bass guitar, and I was playing the bass as well, because I was like, oh, everyone plays the guitar. My way into a band could be like I could play the bass guitar. So I was starting to play the bass as well, and Travis was in this band, and they were playing these things called School of Rock. Now, School of Rock was obviously the best movie ever, but it's programmed for high school age kids, and it was concurrent with the terms, and you would go every week. It was like outside of school. You would go every week to a rehearsal studio and practice a bunch of cover songs. And then the end of the term, they would put on this gig called School of Rock at the Annandale Hotel just down the road here. And that's like a 300 cap venue, and it would be full, completely sold out, line down the road every term. And Crazy Horse Invincible were playing in School of Rock. And Travis, my friend, loved the music and everything, but he hated performing live. So much so that he was like, man, like, I'm thinking I want to quit the band. Like, would you be open to taking my place? And I was like, finally, I'm cool. And so I said absolutely. And they were playing that weekend at a house party. I think it was Liam's 15th birthday party or something like that. And then Liam was in the band as the drummer. And they were like, oh, we've got a gig this weekend. We're playing at a house party. Do you want to come and like, here's some songs to learn, blah, blah, blah. So I show up, and I'd learned all the songs and all the rest of it. And we were running through, and it was great. And I wasn't the singer, I was just a bass player. And I was like, they were like, oh, have you got any songs like, that you want to play? And I was like, oh, I just wrote this song called So Ugly. Do you want to hear it? And I played it for them, and they were like, yeah, that's cool. And the song was like, I started writing the song, like, how did you get to, like, I started writing the song. It was like quite a beautiful song, like a love song. And I was like, oh, this is lame. Like, I'm 14, like, love is lame. So I then turned it into like a song about someone who was really ugly, and just like tried to make it like punk rock and be like, yeah, you're so ugly, but your mum's so hot, like blah, blah, blah. And I played them the song, and like, yeah, that was cool. So that weekend, even though I was meant to be just playing bass, that was the first time I like played one of my own songs to a crowd, and I sang. And very quickly from that point onwards, just kind of naturally, I became the singer of the band. Because Yannick and Max, who were like sharing the singing, great guitar players. They're two of my closest friends. But I think it was just like, oh, this guy can sing a little bit better, I guess. I don't know what it is. But even back then, I didn't have a great voice. Like, you guys have heard the recordings of like the first song that we did. Recording in Max's garage, just like literally shouting into the laptop microphone, and it's awful. But it's like, we wanted to play like punk, and we were having fun. And then that just became everything. That became all I wanted to do. We gigged relentlessly. We played like shows every single week, as often as we could get them. we started doing a little bit of like ska music. Like I would play saxophone, and we brought in another friend of ours, Nick, to play trumpet. And then like all I remember from that point onwards was just like I loved playing football and I loved playing in bands. And I would just write constantly, gig constantly. So that pretty much took me through high school. Never did well in high school, like never had good grades or whatever. And I think we've spoken about this before, how it's so strange to have teachers that are like, oh, you guys will never make it in music, like that like actively try to like quash your dreams. And our principal, the band we were in, we changed our name to A Kettle of Fish at that point. So A Kettle of Fish, and we were playing gigs all around, and had a bit of a high school name for ourselves. We put out some songs. Sad Girl in particular was probably like our strongest song, about a girl at my school who was in an abusive relationship with this bikey guy who was like older, which is pretty tragic. I don't know where she is, but I had like a bit of a friendship with her, and I wrote the song, and that was a bit of people sort of knew it around the high school circuit, and we got invited to play this thing called School Spectacular, which is like the big statewide like concert at the end of the year, for like all the schools and all the rest of it. And we were invited to play, and our principal said that we weren't allowed to do it because our grades weren't good enough. And I think at that point I kind of knew that I'd also tried to study music for like my final years, and she also said like, oh, this won't scale highly enough in the end of year exams, so you're not allowed to do music. So like at that point it was like, okay, it then became like you get a bit of a chip on your shoulder and you start wanting to prove people wrong. So that just motivated me and motivated us as kids, and we finished high school, and we just played relentlessly every gig. We play to a room of 2 people. We go to shows and we play, and it'd just be the other band in the room. And then we started posting videos on YouTube. In fact, I can't take credit for this. Nick. So the band had then gone from A Kettle of Fish to Jade Monkey. We called ourselves Jade Monkey, and we were like a pop rock band. And it was myself on bass singing, Max lead guitar from the original band, Dane, my brother's friend, was playing drums, and then Nick Barker was playing guitar and also singing with me. And Nick is one of like I haven't played with Nick in years, but he's a genius, and I'd learned so much from him, songwriting, just like musicality. I loved being in a band with him, and he started doing these things on YouTube where he would like post himself doing like a rock guitar version of like pop songs, and he started like it started to blow up. He was posting it on the band page, like Jade Monkey page, but it was like, Jade Monkey cover of TikTok by Kesha. He did one of those. I think that was the first one that he did, and it got like 100,000 views on YouTube or something like that. And we were like, oh my god, this is so cool. So then we started doing like rock guitar and bass covers of songs, and we did like, remember that song Gangnam Style? We did that, like we did a Lady Gaga song, we did a couple other songs, and we started to build this like online following. And we were posting our songs as well, and we had a few thousand, like up to like 5,000 YouTube subscribers, and we put out an EP, put out another EP, and like when I look back at that objectively, like now knowing what I know, I was like, you guys were crushing it, and you were onto something like early. You were doing really well. You were writing great songs. Like if we'd have stayed the course with that, like it would have worked. I think that's, for me, that's pretty obvious looking back. But you don't have that hindsight, especially when you're young. And the the thing that happened is that basically all the other guys in the band weren't. I don't want to throw them under the bus and be like their heart wasn't in, or I don't think they were prepared to sacrifice all the other opportunities in life to pursue music. So it was like university, get jobs kind of thing. And Nick and I kept trying together for a little while. But then I think he started getting pulled away because he was into coding and developing, and he wanted to, and like we were still making no money. And like, you know, as you guys know, like the period of grinding can be anywhere from like 5 years to 10 years or whatever. And like, there needs to be some kind of commitment to like, it's all or nothing. If you have a plan B, plan A doesn't work in this industry because it's so competitive. And I think the other guys just had plan Bs. So it ended up where I was the only person that wanted to keep going. And at that point, playing in bands my whole life, I had to figure out a way to then do it as a solo project. And if we look at the personal life side of things, I had a job, full-time job, as it was kind of like a recruitment consultant, essentially, which is like, I appreciate the opportunity that I had, and it was a decent job and whatever, but man, I used to wake up in the morning and the first thought in my head, I would just scream, fuck, like, not again. And I didn't want the life of anyone else who was working in that job. Like, that in 5 years' time, I could see people, or 10 years or 20 years, like the people who were like at the top or whatever. I was like, I don't want your life. I don't respect your life for me. Like, and that period of like trying to do music and the normal thing at the same time really started to get to me. And I was like, I feel like why am I working so hard to do something that's like killing me? Like, I hate it. Like, I hate my life when I wake up in the morning 9 to 5 and I got to go to work. So I basically just rage quit, and I pulled the plug, and I booked myself a one-way ticket to Valencia in Spain. In my mind, I'd always wanted to learn another language. And so I enrolled myself in a Spanish language school. And I quit my job, packed everything up, packed up my life, one-way ticket to Spain to just like, I need a reset. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Spain. It's cheap there. I can live there, learn Spanish during the day. And then at nighttime, I'm just going to watch YouTube videos and teach myself how to produce my own music. Because that was like, I was like, I can't afford to like just keep going to the studio and buying studio time. And I need to figure out how to do this myself, because you start to realize that like no one's coming to help you. Like, it's all about how much momentum you can build for yourself. So that's what I did. I moved into a flat share with 5 Spanish people, 1 Italian, 4 Spanish people, and then myself. So I spoke no Spanish. Like, that first month in Spain was just like, my head was just sore from like trying to communicate with people. And that's all I did. I didn't really have very many friends. I tried a little bit, but I just spent most of my time in my bedroom watching YouTube videos, learning how to use Ableton, how to produce my own music. Started like, do I want to make like electronic music? No. And then I started making like little backing tracks and writing songs and just sort of like feeling my way around the independent solo artist type thing. I lasted 4 months in Spain until I got to the point where I was like, this lifestyle is not for me. Like, you go out at 7:30 to try and find dinner, and all the restaurants are closed, and they're like, we open at 9 o'clock for dinner. And as someone who's like always hungry, that was a bit of cultural friction. and like they're asleep in the afternoon, and they have quite a different way of life. Like, I think you'd be surprised at how different life is in Spain than it is to here. And I was just like, this isn't for me. Wasn't feeling it. So that summer, I went to visit my friend in Paris. Now, Yannick, who was in the original band, Yannick is half French, and he had moved to Paris after high school. So I went to stay with him, and he, one of the greatest people in my life in terms of generosity and support. He was like, "Hey man, you can have my apartment for 3 months. I'm gonna go live with my girlfriend because I feel like we could spend more time together." And he just gave me his studio apartment in like the middle of Paris. It was supposed to be a month, but then I originally went for 1 month, and I was like, well, I don't have a reason to leave. I'll stay for another month, and then I might as well stay 3 months while like I've got this apartment sort of thing. So I was like, summer, Paris, life is good. And I started showing people the music that I've been working on, and I got invited to play at this house party, which was like an apartment party of this American guy called Will, who like, he was planning this party where they were going to gut the apartment, put artwork on all the walls, and have like poetry and music and like kind of just like a mixed art party, which is like the most Paris thing ever. And I go and we play, and Yannick's playing guitar with me. We've got a backing track because like a week before the party, I broke my hand trying to do a backflip at another party on Bastille Day, which is the 14th of July. And I tried to do this cool backflip thing that I used to be able to do in high school. I was quite drunk and broke my hand at the party. Didn't realize until 3 days later that I had a broken hand. I was just like, I just wrapped it up in like a boxing wrap, and we went away on holiday to Switzerland, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Went back, and it was just like completely cut into the bone. So I couldn't play guitar or whatever. So Yannick's like, I'll play guitar, you just sing. And I had a little synth. I was like playing some solos on the synth. But we played this house party, and the room was packed. And like we pressed play on the first song, and like I'm just going for it. And it was just like instant reaction. Like instant, like, this is like, these people are feeling this. Like, this is going well. And I've played a lot of gigs where that's not the case. And for it to be my first gig as like a solo artist, and the room was packed, and everyone was like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. It was very validating. And then straight away after that, like I just finished, this guy comes out of the crowd, and he's this older guy from the UK, and he's like, all right, Dale, like, because obviously my name's Dale. He's like, all right, Dale, that was amazing, man. I'm a manager. Like, I've got this artist who's just signed to Virgin. Like, I thought that was really fucking cool, man. Like, here's my email or number or whatever. Like, come to my apartment. We'll have a chat and all the rest of it. I'm like, this is the dream. I'm living the dream. Like, I just played my first show. This hotshot manager's like come up to me afterwards, wants to like get to know me, and I remember like I needed to take myself out for a walk after that moment, because I was like, this is it. Like, I'm here, baby. Like, and I stayed in Paris. I started working with Stephen Munson, who became like my mentor. I love him to bits. He's an old punk rocker from like the 80s in London. He was signed to a major label, and then they like dropped them because they just like took too many drugs and whatever. I love him to bits. Amazing friend, great mentor. For me, not the right manager, because he was like, whatever, man, just do what you fucking want. Like, fuck the labels. Like, there's like probably great advice, but like wasn't super business focused. And I spent like 2.5, almost 3 years in Paris. And looking back now, that was like my formative years creatively as an artist, as a person, like, because nothing I ever did connected. I released songs, my friends liked it, whatever. It didn't go beyond that. I was working like in a bar as a waiter. I was working as a carpenter's assistant. I was also sometimes doing work like some translation work as well. So working 3 jobs, making no money, trying to do music in a foreign country where it's like, it's cool that I speak English and I'm singing in English and all the rest of it. And it was like this, but I realize now that like I was never going to break in France. Like that's kind of a, but you don't know this stuff. So I spent 3 years there basically getting poorer and poorer and more miserable and feeling like more of a failure. And Europe is funny because the summers are great, but the winters are long and dark. And when you can't afford to put the heating on, and it's so cold in your room that it's like wet with condensation, and there's mold everywhere, and you're sick, and you can't sleep properly because you're just like freezing, like shivering, and you can't really eat properly. So I was basically eating just potatoes and yogurt. Like in the morning, I'd wake up and have yogurt, and then from like lunch and dinner, I'd have potatoes and eggs. Because you could buy a 5 kilo bag of potatoes from the Algerian shop round the corner for €3, and that would give you like 2 weeks worth of food, basically. And I was like, I was doing the broke artist thing properly, which is, I suppose I should be like, I am really grateful for that, but I was just getting more and more miserable. I went through a breakup at that period, and I kind of slid into this depression. And I'm not a depressive type. Like most of the men in my family are, but I'm gratefully not. Like my baseline is generally pretty good, but I definitely went through a period where I was like, I remember having thoughts of just like, I wish I could just slip off the face of the earth and like not have to make an excuse or like tell anybody. And like I remember like getting home and catching myself in the mirror, and I like laugh at myself. And I was like, you're so lonely, and like you're so fucking like nothing's working. And when I look back, it's like it makes sense. I was having to like sell my things to keep paying rent, and when you have no money, you have to say no to all these social opportunities and music. I was trying. Like I remember I would overhear someone at a bar being like, "Oh yeah, I work in music," and I'd go over and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm writing songs like blah blah blah," and they'd be like, "Oh cool, you're English, you write songs. Why don't you come to the studio and help us write songs in English for like this artist or whatever?" And I'd go and we'd work all night and blah blah blah. But none of those songs ever got released. Like none of it ever. Like I put in a lot of like so much work as like a songwriter in Paris. Nothing ever cut through. Nothing ever got released. Nothing ever made me any money or anything. So it was just like 3 years of failing. And it got to the point where I was like, I was working. I remember I was getting so frustrated at myself working, like as a builder essentially, like digging and excavating, to put down foundations for like new houses or like doing a lot of carpentry stuff like that. And I remember working. It's tough. It's tough work. It's physical work. But when you're doing the physical work and you know that you're so desperate to be doing something else, you become very frustrated with yourself, and then your self-talk becomes like, why are you doing this? Like, and I just remember being so frustrated with myself working, and it's so strange. I was digging this hole one day, and I pulled out this big rock because we were trying to dig a trench for like plumbing pipe. I pulled out this big rock, and the rock was in the shape of Australia. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, I need to go back to Australia. Like this is crazy. Like what am I doing here? Like like just go home. And so very quickly from that point onwards, I was like, all right, I'm I'm done here. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And I booked a flight back to Australia, and it just so happened to coincide with like COVID. And so I came back, thank God, at a time where I was able to just come back to my folks' place, and then the world shut down. And you have that moment as a musician of like, oh my God, I can't play any gigs. I can't do anything. It's all over. And then you watch a Gary Vee video on YouTube that is like, you're never going to make the right decision. It was very formative for me. I shouldn't gloss over it. Like, it was this video where he was talking about decision making, because I was someone who would like work on this song and mix it and remix it and be like, oh, it's great. It needs to be perfect. And like a year would go by or 2 years would go by and the song still wouldn't be out. And then he was like, you're never going to make the right decision. Just make a decision and move forward, because you don't have hindsight. You don't have enough information to make the perfect decision. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right, Gary. And he was also saying, start posting on TikTok. Anyone who's doing anything creative, start posting on TikTok. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try and flip my mindset. I'm going to write a song every single day and post a video of it on TikTok, because I have nothing else to do. And I was like, in my mind, I didn't want to tell my friends because it's embarrassing. But I was like, this could be like my public catalog of songwriting. Because I was still kind of like, maybe I want to be a songwriter, not an artist, because I just didn't, I had no success as an artist. I started doing that. I started writing and posting a song every single day. And that really was a light bulb moment. That was the moment where I like professionally, spiritually, everything just like, I figured it out, in the sense of like, oh, this is actually how you achieve something in life. It's not put a goal on a pedestal and then try and create this perfect thing or perfect situation to like hit it. It's stop thinking about the outcome. Start just doing. The process is everything. Trusting the process. And it's so cliche, but it's like the process for me was write a song, post it on TikTok. I didn't have time to worry about whether it was successful or not, because the next day I'd wake up and I had to do the same thing again. I didn't have time to focus on the outcome. All I could focus on was the process. And that becomes a superpower. And you start, I did a month, I did 2 months, I had 60 songs. And all of a sudden I'm posting videos on TikTok and people are coming back the next day. And you get 100 views, then you get 200 views, then you get 500 views. And then I'm like, this is starting to become a thing I'd never had up until that point. And I've been trying to do music for like 10 years at this point. I'd never had really anyone outside of my extended network engaged in my music, my original music. So this was the first time. So I was like, I'm onto something. I feel like I'm pretty early here. Other people are not using TikTok. I'm going to really double down on this. And so I did, and I spent all my time trying to figure out how to get more views on TikTok, basically. Covers, little funny skits, stuff like that. And through that, I started to build a bit of a following. 5,000 people. I got to 10,000. And then I started to meet other people who were doing cool stuff. The people who I'd always wanted to be in the room with. Creatives, other entrepreneurs, other musicians. All of a sudden, you start meeting them because they're doing the same thing as you. And I got invited by a friend of mine Nat, invited me to have coffee with Byron. Byron, who was also doing stuff on TikTok. He's a podcaster, and we met up for a coffee, and we struck up a friendship because we could relate to each other and what we were trying to do. And then all of a sudden we started to build our little network of creatives who were all trying to push themselves online to create personal brand and like build a following. And so that really started the journey of like building a core group of people around you who are all pushing you in that direction. We're jumping on calls every single morning, brainstorming, how do we make better videos? How do we, and I start recording my music. I've been doing this songwriting thing every day, writing songs. And I was like, okay, now, all right, here's 10 songs that I like. Pick a song, and that's the song I'm going to record, and I'm going to release it in 2 weeks. So I'm now producing, and I'm showing everybody how I'm producing the song 1 week, submit it to Spotify, it comes out the next week, and then again, and again, and again. And I think this is 2021, or is it 2020? I put out 16 songs that year, And none of them were hits. Like, none of them did anything special or whatever, but they were building momentum, building a fan base. I was getting better at it. I was getting better at producing. I was getting an idea of what this artist thing looks like. And then there was a song that comes along called Push You Further, which I was like, oh, I would love to have a choir on this song. A choir of people, a gang vocal, because it felt anthemic. Still in lockdown. I think this is the second lockdown by this time. And I was like, oh, what would be cool? I've got a little bit of a following online. Why don't I ask any of my followers on TikTok if they would be interested in sending in a video of themselves singing this chorus, so that I could then take that audio, put it in the track, and I'd have a gang. So I made this video. I was like, hey guys, I'd love for you to sing on my next song with me. All you got to do is duet this video and sing along with me at the end. Fully hoping, expecting maybe that like 20 people would do it. Posting that, and within 2 days, I had like 200 responses from complete strangers all across the world. And everyone singing this song and wanting to be involved in the project. And that was like a light bulb for me. And I was just like, oh, I'm onto something here. Like, this is special. Like, this feels like a moment that I need to run with. So almost immediately I was like, I'm going to make this thing. You guys are going to be called the Choir Imperfect, and you guys are going to be your own artist project, and you're going to feature on my songs. And that began the thing that kind of that gave me a sense of like uniqueness and power, and like I had my own lane, like I had my thing. Because in music, there's so many people trying to do the same thing. So many musicians competing for your attention at that entry level, especially. And up until that point, I'm just looking at other people trying to copy them, basically. And now I had this thing where no one else was doing it. I still don't understand why no one else is doing it, but no one else is. And it's like years down the line now. And so then begins the journey of like, all right, I've got this thing. I'm trying to build my online following, stay alive by like making money. How do I really create an artist project that is like my career? And I'd love to say that it was like, you have that moment and then all of a sudden it's like, but it's not the case. It's never been my case. It's always like slow, incremental gains. And I move in with Byron, and we've got these creators around us, and he's a podcaster. I'm a musician. We're just trying to push our careers. We move in together, and shortly after moving in together, we're like, oh, why don't we, like, we're both on TikTok. We're both pushing ourselves online socially. Why don't we do something together, like Byron and Pace kind of thing? And we were like, why don't we try and like engineer a channel which is just designed to go viral? Like, we post videos that are like everything we've learned about posting. We don't care about like our own personal brand or whatever. We just want to have viral videos. So we created the Byron and Pace show, which was just, we told crazy outlandish stories to each other, and you didn't know if it was true or false, and you had to guess at the end, and then there was a reveal. Oh, I made it up. Oh, it's real. It actually happened. Like, and we were just like, why don't we try it? We sit down once a week and we'll just tell these crazy stories to each other. And we recorded our first episode in November, and we were like, imagine if we got to 10,000 followers by New Year's. So it was like, we had a month, December. And we recorded our first episode, and in the first week, we had like 14 million views. And we hit 110,000 in that first month. 110,000 followers. Just went berserk. We had a video that did like, eventually, one of the first videos we posted did like 14 million by itself. And we were like, this is it. Like, we're gods. Like, we're content gods. And we just start posting, and I'm still doing the music, but I'm like, well, this is attention, and I need attention. So I can figure out a way to make that work for music while we're doing it. So we do the Byron Pace thing for a little bit, and 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. We're at one point, I'm 100% sure we're the fastest growing channel in the country, because we get to 500,000 followers within, like, I don't know, the first 6 to 12 months or something like that. And then you start going out and people are recognizing you, mainly teenage boys. But like, I started going out with Byron. We spent a weekend together where we went, like, we filmed a music video for me. We went to Central Coast for something, the music video. Then we went to the snow that same weekend, and then we drove back to Sydney. Every time we got out of the car, we were recognized. At the restaurant where we went to the snow, we were recognized. Cafe music video, we were recognized. Petrol station, on the way, recognized. And I was like, okay, this is something's starting to move here. But again, it's not what I want to do. This is Byron and Pace. This is this TikTok thing that we've created just for attention. It's fun, obviously, but it's not music. So in the back of my mind, I'm still like, how do I make this work for music? And we're doing brand deals at this point. Ironically, we lost money on Byron and Pace because we just reinvested everything to try and, like, keep it going. But we're doing brand deals especially with Amazon Prime Video, and they invite us to their end of year party because we were like we got them like one of the most views out of all their creators. So invite us to their end of year party, and at the party we meet this guy Rico. Now Rico and Byron knew each other because Byron used to work as a videographer for this, like, personal development business company, and Rico was a student. He like signed up to the course, and then we met, and Rico's like, "Oh, I'm doing management now, like artist management and creative management," and we start talking, and we're like, "Oh, we're Byron and Pace. We have these channels. We're, like, it's doing really well. Also, I'm a musician. This is my channel, and I've got, like, a decent following online as a musician as well." So he's like, "Man, this is like a match made in heaven." We sit down and we have a meeting with him afterwards, and then they sign us as the management client. So it's like my first, like, music manager, like proper music manager. But he signed me, I think, because of the Byron and Pace thing, because that's doing really well. The music thing was a bit of an afterthought, but we kind of kept doing the Byron and Pace thing for a while, and we had some cool moments. You start getting invited to, like, red carpets and stuff like that, and we were starting to, like, we did an interview with John Krasinski, like the guy from The Office, but not what I wanted to do at all, really. Like, yeah, sure, attention is fun, and we were doing cool stuff, but music was what I wanted to do. And eventually I had a chat with Byron, and I was like, "Look, man, you don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Either we go all in or we stop, because half-assing something is serving neither of us. And I don't want to be the crazy story guy. Do you want to be the crazy story guy? No, not really." So we put a pin in it. We just were like, you know what? Life's too short to pursue something that you don't want to do, even if it's going well. So we canned it, and then became all my focus back on music again, which I'm so great. Like, I was so relieved at that point. But then it's like, okay, how do I, because we were making money. Well, Byron Pace was getting brand deals and stuff like that, but, like, we weren't taking money out of it. But you go back to music, and it's like, okay, how do I emulate that success? And I had sat down with Rico and had a meeting, and he was like, what's the thing? What's your angle? And I was like, well, I've got this Choir Imperfect thing, and blah, blah, blah. And it was his idea. He said, okay, you're doing, like, song by song, like, singles, but there's nothing for people to really sink their teeth into. Why don't you do a whole album with the Choir Imperfect? And that's the whole concept. It's inspired. It's written with them. And then I was like, yeah, we can get, like, 10,000 people on it. And he's like, 100,000. He's like 100,000. 10,000 doesn't excite me. 100,000 excites me. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of people. And he's like, figure it out. So that project was his idea. And from that point on, I've been failing over the course of now like 2 years to try and get this thing off the ground. Which someone from the outside would look at that and be like, that's insane. Like 2 years? What are you doing? Like, are you not working? But it's like being an independent musician is difficult because everything costs money. No one's giving you money. And there's like, if I was just writing songs and releasing them, it'd be pretty easy to like just write, release. But because it's like, I need people to send me stories and then like we're working. When I started from scratch, it was like, all right, what are your favorite albums of all time? Fans sent me what their albums were. I listened to all of them, broke them down. All right, these are the best parts about these albums. How can we take that into our concept album? All right, what do you want to write about? Send me stories. What's the theme going to be? Okay, you're starting to send me stories about different things in life. Here are 3 themes that I've found: loss, love, and belonging. Maybe we can make an album around that. Okay, why don't we do it in 3 acts? Act 1, Act 2. And all of this is like, takes time to like really bring people along on the journey. And then I'm writing the songs and I'm showing people songs and, oh, do we like this? Do we not like this? And then finally get 4 songs, the first act, Act 1, Loss, together. 4 songs written. Okay, now I need to save a bit of money. Okay, we've got enough money. Now it's, okay, who am I going to work with? Try to shop around a little bit, producers, but I'm independent. In music, if you're an independent artist, like producers, unless you pay like full price, they don't really want to. People who are doing really cool stuff, they pretty much only work with labels, artists who are on major labels. And at this point, I get offered, someone offers me a record deal. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll wait. I'll negotiate this deal. Then that'll come through. Then we'll use that money to fund the recordings. Month and a half, 6 weeks of like negotiations. I've got a lawyer involved. Blah blah blah. They pull the pin on the deal. I've spent like $2,000 on legal fees. They don't want to do it anymore. We've delayed the whole project. Thankfully, Nick Weezer, absolute legend, my lawyer, goes into bat and he's like, you can't do this. You can't treat artists like this. You can't make them pay for money to negotiate with you and then just pull the pin with independent artists. Like, so they ended up paying my legal fees. Loved it. But delayed the whole project. Okay, we're going to get back in the studio. This distributor, they want to do a deal. Okay, great. They want to put money towards it and all the rest of it. Okay, negotiating that. Another 2 months goes by. We're actually thinking of pulling out of Australia, so we don't really have time, like the resources to allocate. I think this is just normal. This is the music industry, and it happens. And it's not to say that these are bad companies or they don't work well with other people, but if you just have these experiences, it can be really crippling. Another distributor offers a deal. We go back and forward, terms, all the rest of it. They end up saying, actually, it's not for us. You just lost 6 months, and you're not putting music out. And I'm doing this project where everything is like showing people how it's being made, but I can't show people the negotiations for these deals. So like I'm basically just trading water for 6 months. Finally, we decide, you know what? Screw everybody. I'm just going to pay for it myself. I'm going to do it myself. We get in the studio, recording, having the best time. Obviously, it's the best part of the job, recording music. Get the first 4 songs recorded. And then it's, okay, someone else comes along. Oh, we'd love to distribute these songs, work with you. 2 months, negotiation, nothing. And it's hard because it's not just what I want. Also, I'm listening to my management team, and they're like, oh, we usually, we want to explore this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. No one's right, no one's wrong. Everyone's trying to do the best thing, but it gets really muddy and messy, and I get super frustrated because I'm like, I don't know what to tell my fans. We're working on this project together. they're like, dude, you wrote these songs like 8 months ago. What's the deal? Like, are they coming out? Are we going to sing on this record? Blah, blah, blah. And it gets, again, to the point where I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. No one's coming. Comes back to that thing. No one's coming. No one's going to help me. I just need to do it myself. Trust the fact that I can connect with my fans. So eventually, after having an unfortunate experience where it took way longer to mix the songs than it should have. Like, we're talking like 6 months longer than it should have for various reasons. Again, it's like politics, people you're working with, they're busy on other projects. You're an independent artist, you're not paying full whack, so they have to prioritize other work. Things get delayed, blah, blah, blah. I recorded the album, and then a year later, I think it took over a year for me to get the record actually mixed and finished and ready to start releasing. And then we go, and I start working with my friends, these amazing videographers, LUMINA. I don't know if you've heard of them. And we hit the streets, and we're getting people to sing. I'm posting content, getting my fans to submit their voices online. I start playing shows and getting people to record parts of the album on shows. And I released the first song, Thunder in the Dark. It doesn't move the needle in any way. In fact, it's, objectively, it's a flop, right? And this is the crazy thing for me, is that I've been working on this album for so long, but so many things have pulled the momentum and the everything out of it, that it's crazy to have worked on the project for that long and then put a song out, and it's kind of just like, because it felt like there was nothing, like the strategy was all over the place. There's no like big support or whatever. But I had this in my head, like with this album project, I'm like, there's 12 songs. It means I get 12 rolls of the dice. And if the first song doesn't hit, that's okay. If the second song doesn't hit, that's okay. I've got 12 attempts to get it right and get the launch right and get it to cut through and everything. So I'm just like, I'm so glad that the song is just out. And now I can move forward and I can promote it. And I'm starting to go on tour. First time I've ever done a support slot. And I go on tour with a friend of mine, Ben Swisser, who's also represented by Rico, the same management company. Play the shows with him, and then we get this opportunity to do a co-headline tour. And it's Europe and America. It's 2 months in Europe, 2 months in America. And we go out, but it's like super bare bones. It's me and him sleeping in a van, like a delivery van, not a tour van. And we're sleeping in 20 euro sleeping bags, and it's like -2 degrees outside. We're shivering and like getting sick and drinking cold soup, and like we're on the road, like doing it properly, but we're on tour and we're playing shows in front of, a crowd of 50 people, a crowd of 100 people. We arrive in Germany, we play in Frankfurt, and we play in Lille, and we go to Sweden, and we go to Belgium, and we go to France, and we play a bunch more shows in Germany, and then we go to the UK, and we play a bunch of shows there, and it's like, man, this is awesome. And I'm at every show, I'm recording people, recording the crowd for Fear Me, the next song that's going to come out, and getting people. And I come back, and I'm really determined, and this is like a few months ago. Now I'm like, I don't care anymore. I know what I need to do. I'm super just like focused, and I'm like, all right, I don't want anyone wasting my time. I don't want a distributor coming and waving money in front of me or a record label or anything like that. This is my project. This is my fans. I know what I need to do. I'm just going to push forward, and we're going to release this album. Whatever happens, I'm so proud of the songs. I'm so proud of the whole project. So we just need to get it out there. And that takes me to today, where we've just put out, a few days ago, we put out Fear Me, which is the second song on the record. Again, I think the song is, like, I'm so proud of it. I think it's such an awesome song. And there's all these people from all over the world singing on it. There's like, I think there's over like 1,500 people singing on it. Something like that. And now I'm at this point where I'm just like, the only roadblocks were other people. And I've stopped waiting for other people's permission to put this project out. This is me and my fans trying to build something awesome. Anyone who sings on the song gets invited to join a private Discord server where it's just people in the Choir Imperfect, and we're just building that community. And yeah, here I am. I have no money still, but I have awesome songs. I just got back from Nashville, where I mean, that's a whole other thing. I got back, and I was like, I'm going to record Act 2 ahead of time. I'm going to record the songs ahead of time. I'm going to write and record them ahead of time, even though I haven't got the choir yet. I'm going to go to Nashville because I met some friends there when I was there on my trip last time, and I've got this visa. I can go. I'm going to go work with people who love me, people I love, and we're going to make Act 2 and we're going to record it. And so, again, ask my fans, send me stories, love, good, bad, like all, I want to hear everything. We go there, I spend 2 weeks there, we crush it, we write these beautiful songs inspired by all of these letters. So now Act 2, it needs to be mixed and all the rest of it, but that's in the pocket for later. So I'm trying to set myself up so I don't have any more roadblocks. Fear Me just came out, that's song number 2. Make Me Wait, Losing Angels, song number 3 and 4 are coming out like February, March, April, May, and then it'll be Act 2, June, July, August, September, blah, blah, blah. I'll go back to Nashville to record Act 3 at some point in that period, so that I've just got this clean run up where I'm just releasing music, getting as many people involved as possible, and just adjusting things as I go along to try and really, see if we can have one of these songs cut through and make a breakthrough. Because, like, that's all you need is a moment that just cuts through on social media where people connect with a song. And I say that while also my mentality is, if I can get somebody involved in this project and in my music, and they sing on one of the songs and they start to be like, oh, I can send in my story, and that can be interpreted in a way that gets into the lyrics, and I start to feel like I'm a creative part of this, and I join a community on Discord, and I'm now meeting people in my city or across the world we're jumping on calls, we're going live and stuff like that. If I can create that environment for people where they start to feel seen and heard and like they belong to the project, then that's my insurance policy. Because even if I don't have a viral hit or a viral song or whatever, I have a group of people who will probably be there in 50 years' time when I'm playing my last tour, because there's a reason to feel like they belong as a part of the Choir Imperfect and that whole project. And it sounds kind of cheesy and all the rest of it, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And there's some of the letters here of people who have been involved, and I really feel like I've never felt more confident in what I'm doing. I've never felt more sure of the songs that I'm putting out, the strategy. And I hate to use the word because it kind of makes it feel like a business, but it has to be a strategy and what we're doing. And I'm just so excited for the next 12 to 18 months. I can't to have this project finished. And I have this number, 100,000 voices. And look, part of it is a way to show people the ambition of the project. It's just a number, but it shows, hey, this is gonna be big. I'm not messing around here. Do I care about hitting 100,000? Do I care if it's 200 to 300,000 or 50,000? Not really. But it's just to give me and the people involved an idea of the ambition of the project. And I'm so excited to be putting it out into the world because I think it's just so good. And I've been someone who's been pretty down on, I'm confident, but I don't toot my horn a huge amount. But all the songs that are coming out are awesome, and they mean something, not just to me, but to the people that are involved. And I've had people talk to me about Fear Me that just came out, and they're like, this is something that I've never felt like I could express before, or I feel so seen by this. And I don't know, man. I'm in it. I'm in it right now, and I'm moving forward in a way that I haven't been in a long time. And I'm proud, I'm focused, and I have good people around me. And yeah, we'll see where it takes me. We'll see where it takes us. But it's been a long, slow journey, like learning slowly. And if you told me at the start, when I first started writing songs and trying to be in a band, that it'd be like, hey, buddy, expect to not be paid for like 10 to 15 years. Like, that's a long time to be like living paycheck to paycheck, like scraping by. And there have been periods where I've made a bit more or a bit less, and I hate to make it about money, but that's like, that really, when money is tight, it's hard to not think about it all the time. So I'm still there, but I feel like my path is clear. And so I'm going to keep walking.